We are the prodigy.
What is happening to our young people? They disrespect their elders, they disobey their parents, they ignore the law, they riot in the streets inflamed with notion. Their morals are decaying. What is to become of them? Although a quote from Plato, a philosopher in the 4th century BC, one could easily mistake these words as a standard current affairs story. So how does a man's view on young people from thousands of years ago relate so closely to those of young people today? Because moral panic has remained a prevalent issue throughout generations. This can be seen with examples in history like the Gutenberg Bible, which saw a threat to the Catholic Church because of the decentralisation of power due to the rise in literacy, right through to the pop culture seen in the past decades. Moral panics are almost always about young people, the provocation of fear, and about maintaining existing social order. However, these panics often dissipate over time. One of the most recent moral panics surrounds video games and the violent impact they have on society. Today, I will be discussing the statement, "Everybody knows the media is bad for society," in relation to the video game violence. News groups have successfully created a sense of hysteria amongst society in relation to video games, creating the impression that they are the source of violent crimes. Moral panic is created as these groups look at the predetermined or assumed cause and work backwards in order to find a correlation rather than the causation. For example, we play violent video games and therefore we become violent. This concept is called the media effects logic. NRA Executive Director Wayne LaPierre made the statement in December 2012 after the tragic Sandy Hook elementary shooting. There exists in this country a callous, corrupt, and corrupting shadow industry that sells and sows violence against its own people. Through vicious, violent video games with names like Bulletstorm, Grand Theft Auto, Mortal Kombat, and Splatterhouse. LaPierre then went on to suggest that video games compete with one another to shock, violate, and offend every standard of civilized society by bringing an even more toxic mix of reckless behaviour and criminal cruelty into our homes, every minute of every day, of every month, of every year. LaPierre saw an opportunity to take advantage of the moral panic surrounding video games, and therefore use this reasoning in order to take the focus off guns. The media effects correlation instead of causation persists because it provides easy answers to complex problems. The truth is, video games do not cause violence. In fact, if any correlation between crime and video games were to be established, it would be of positive nature. In Lecture 2, Harrington shows a graph representing assault deaths per 100,000 people over the last 50 years for all countries. This graph shows that since the first computer game was released in 1978, assault deaths have reduced dramatically. If this is the case, how can video games be the cause of violence? Well, the simple answer is that they aren't. In fact, most games don't have any violence in them. Harrington explains in Lecture 4 that the most popular game type amongst both female and male Australians are in fact puzzles. Therefore, by looking at the evidence, I believe that video game media is not to blame for violence amongst society. However, I do believe that news media is to blame for creating moral panic amongst society and instilling fear into the uninformed. Thank you for listening.